Hey friends, it's Laurel from Macanudo. Thanks for coming to my video. I just wanted to take the opportunity to talk to you guys a little bit about some common misconceptions about cigars or cigar myths, as well as a couple helpful tricks for going into a lounge, going into a cigar shop if you are newer to that sort of smoking experience. So I want to start out with what I think first and foremost is the most important, and that's not smoking something out of your comfort zone. If you're a newer smoker and you go to a cigar shop or you have a friend who is maybe giving you something, be upfront about what you're comfortable with and what your smoking experience is, because it's not going to be a good time for anybody if you smoke a cigar that's too strong. Trust me, I've smoked cigars that have been too strong in the past, and it's just not a pleasant experience. But it's not even about strength. It's just about what you want, what you're comfortable with. So if you're a flavored cigar smoker and somebody is trying to get you on a traditional cigar because, flavored cigars are for beginners, which they are not. Everybody's entitled to their opinion and to smoke what they want. I, in fact, am smoking a flavored cigar right now, and I am by no means a beginner cigar smoker. Sometimes I just want to switch it up a little bit, right? Smoking the Macanudo M coffee right now. Anyway, I digress. Don't let somebody pressure you into smoking something that you are not comfortable with. If you like a flavored cigar and you don't want to do a traditional cigar, don't do it. If you are newer and somebody is trying to say, oh, well, you're newer, start out with an entry-level cigar, which is a flavored cigar, and you're not into it, say you're not into it. Just don't do it. Smoke what you want. But then on that note, trust the people working at the cigar shops. Typically, people who are working there are very passionate about the product, and there's a lot of other jobs you could hold that isn't working in a very specific market like cigars. So trust the people who are working there. Ask them a lot of questions. When I worked retail and we would get newer smokers in, I really liked when people asked a lot of questions, because that's really the best way that you can learn. They're happy to guide you through finding something that is going to fit your palate and fit exactly what you're looking for. So I would make sure that, you're going to a shop where the people are caring and they're willing to answer questions and they want to help you really have the best experience possible. Once you find those people, which in the cigar industry are not few and far between. I find that cigar people are always very welcoming and helpful. So that's important. Just be honest, be candid, tell them your experience, tell them what you're looking for. If they suggest a flavored cigar and you don't want one, just say no. If they suggest a super mellow cigar and you're looking for something with maybe a little bit more, say it, all right? Anyway, okay, I don't want to harp on this, but trust the people, trust yourself. Trust yourself, trust your gut. All right, so let's kind of talk about some cigar myths. Now, I've talked about this in videos past. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, but I cannot stress it enough. The color does not always equate to the strength. Just because the cigar is darker does not mean it's stronger. Maduro does not equal strength. It simply means that it's ripe, that it's ready. A Maduro wrapper is going to provide a sweeter quality that like a Connecticut shade cannot offer, simply by the nature of the leaf and the way that the tobacco is handled in the fermentation and the curing process and the aging process. Connecticut broadleaf, very commonly used for Maduro, is a thicker leaf by nature and can withstand a harsher fermentation process to achieve that really dark color, to kind of pull those sugars through and give you a different smoking experience. Just because the cigar is dark does not mean that it's strong. And on that note, just because the cigar is lighter does not mean that it's not strong. All right, I'm going to give you two examples here. Macanudo Maduro, all right? One of the first mellow Maduros on the market when we first introduced it. I want to say like 10 years ago. So that is a very, very mellow, approachable cigar with a dark Maduro wrapper. And For me, the example I like to use for a cigar that's kind of sneaky strong is the Opus X from Fuente. I feel like people look at the cigar and they're like, oh, that doesn't look all that intimidating. And you're like, it's got a little bit more punch than you might be anticipating. So don't judge a book by its cover. The same goes for a cigar. Don't look at it simply by the color and say, oh, this is going to be a mellow, medium, or full cigar. Now, you can have a fuller flavored cigar with a mellower strength. And on the contrary, you can have a pretty strong cigar with a more muted flavor. I personally like a balance. I tend to gravitate more towards like a medium-bodied cigar with a fuller flavor. But, it's all up to you. Everyone's got an opinion. Everybody has what they like. So who am I to tell you what to or not to smoke? But just kind of go in knowing what you're looking for. So if you're like, okay, well, I'm looking for something super flavorful, but I don't want it to be terribly strong, that's doable. If you want a powerhouse both in strength and flavor, also doable. So just be open about what you're looking for. So also, bigger doesn't equal stronger. So if you see some of the cigars that are, I feel like cigar sizes are crazy now. When I first started in retail, 60 ring gauges were big, but now it's like 70 ring gauges and 80 ring gauges. Just because the cigar is bigger doesn't mean that it's going to be stronger. So a lot of the bigger ring gauge cigars use a lot of Seco, which is coming from the lower portion of the plant. So you're getting a lot of tobacco in there, but it's not necessarily strong tobacco. It's a lot of filler tobacco. So you can get more of like a buzz, so to say, from smoking a bigger cigar. And that's simply because, and it's not always the case, but because of the sheer amount of tobacco you are smoking and for the length of time that it is required to finish the cigar of that caliber. So yeah, bigger doesn't always mean stronger. Now, if we're looking at like Vitolas, right? Vitolas. There is a difference in ring gauge. So honestly, if I'm going from like a 50 to a 52 to a 54, I don't personally notice that much difference. However, if I'm going from like a 50 to a 60 or a Lancero, like a 42 or a 40 to, a 54 or a 56, when you have that big of a deviation, there's definitely a difference in flavor. And that's because you're getting more of that wrapper concentration on a smaller ring gauge cigar, right? All right, hold on. I was hoping I could salvage it. Should have brought a lighter with me. Anywho, ring gauge does matter because, like I said, the wrapper concentration on the smaller ring gauge cigar is going to provide more of that concentrated flavor. When you get into the bigger ring gauge cigars, you're still getting that wrapper, but you're getting a lot more binder and filler in comparison to the wrapper. And there's so much flavor coming from that wrapper. I feel like it's a constant argument within the cigar industry about what the number is for wrapper flavor. I don't personally feel like there is a hard number to assign to it. It honestly depends on your palate, the cigar you're smoking. There's a lot of outside factors, but I feel like a commonly accepted number is like 60 to 70% of the flavor comes from the wrapper. But again, it's so subjective. Depends on your palate, depends on the cigar. But anyway, you're getting so much flavor from the wrapper. I personally prefer a smaller ring gauge cigar. But again, smoke what you like. Let's see. Diversify. Make sure, again, just my opinion, you can have your old standby, the cigars that you have in your rotation from a week to week basis, day to day basis. That's cool. Everybody has their favorite cigars. I have my favorite cigar. But, occasionally pepper something different in there. You never know what you're going to find. You don't know what you don't know. If you've never tried a cigar before, that could fit your flavor profile that you're looking for, you might be pleasantly surprised. And also, don't discount something simply because of the brand, especially if you haven't had experience with that brand before. if you smoke it and you don't like it, fine. Don't smoke it again. But give it a shot. Don't simply discount something because of the brand. Macanudo is a heritage brand. Macanudo's been around forever. It started as a front mark of punch in literally the 1800s. And in 1968, it was acquired by the Colemans, and we brought it to the States in 1971. And Macanudo is one of those brands where people hear the name sometimes and they're like, oh, that was what I started on. That was my entry-level cigar, or that was what my grandfather smoked. Like, that's awesome. But we've also had so much development over the last 5 years that is very, very different from what you may remember. So, and not speaking about Macanudo specifically, but it just happens to be a good example. If you haven't smoked something in even 3 years, companies are constantly innovating. So I'm sure there's something in that line that you can find that you like. And again, if you smoke it and you don't enjoy it, it's just not for you, move on. But on that note, I would recommend trying a cigar at least twice. Now, if you smoke it and it's just too spicy for you, or maybe too mellow for you, or there's a flavor quality that just doesn't hit your palate right, I'm never going to tell you to keep smoking something you don't enjoy. But again, there are so many outside factors that go into the smoking experience. What did you eat that day? Something could have tainted your palate that is affecting the flavor of the cigar. What sort of mood are you in? I've smoked my favorite cigar when I've been super crabby and not enjoyed it. So being mindful of that. The environment you're in. If you're just not in a good, welcoming environment, if you're outside and it's raining or cold, or you're just not having a good time, that will very much translate to the smoking experience. For me, if I go to a restaurant and the food is off, it's unfortunate if it's the first time, because I'm less likely to go back than if this is like an old standby for me and they have an off day. However, I will always give the restaurant a second chance, unless it's just a god-awful experience. And it's the same thing with the cigar. The Construction, if it's wonky that day, it's always 5 o'clock on a Friday sometimes, right? Even though cigars are draw tested and for the most part with certain companies, like very, very consistent, there's always the opportunity to have one that isn't quite hitting right. And it might happen that it's your first time smoking that. It's unfortunate because it, no pun intended, can leave a bad taste in your mouth, but I would definitely give it a second try, especially if you smoked the cigar and you liked the flavor, but the construction wasn't there. If you smoke it again and it's the same thing, all right, well, move along. But I believe in giving cigars, at least 2 chances. But again, that's just my opinion. You can do what you want. You don't even have to be watching this video, but you're choosing to watch this video, so I appreciate that. Let's see here. Diversify. I talked about this a little bit in my humidor video, but an aged cigar doesn't always mean that it's going to be better. There are certain cigars that too much age can not be good. Now, if you are properly storing your cigars, you physically can age them forever. But some cigars, especially if they're starting out inherently mellower, tend to lose a little bit too much flavor. So if you're putting it in for, a year or two, okay, cool. But, if you're putting in for 5, 7, 10 years, you might pick up that cigar and it's just kind of dull. There are certain cigars that I like to age for a year. There are certain cigars that I like to age for 3 months. There are certain cigars that I have in my humidor that have been aging for 7 to 8 years. It depends on your preference. It depends on your palate. It depends on the cigar. Again, it's all super subjective. But an aged cigar doesn't necessarily translate to like an aged wine or an aged scotch. Aging isn't always better. It can be, but it's not always better. It's not like the end all be all of what you should do with cigars. But again, that's my opinion. You may have your own, and you can tell me I'm wrong. That's fine. I might not respond, but I will take the criticism. Let's see here. Expensive cigars are not always better. It is not only possible, but very common to have a cigar in that, what I consider kind of like the cigar sweet spot of that like $7 to $10 range. Now, for those of you who live in terrible tax states, I apologize. But yeah, typically that like $7 or $8 to $10 range is great. You know, when I worked retail, we'd have people coming in all the time. They're like, what's your most expensive cigar? I'm like, well, I mean, this is our most expensive, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best. I mean, it could be the best for you. Again, super subjective. What I find to be a great cigar, you may not find to be a great cigar. But don't only base your selection on the price. And on that note, don't discount a cigar simply because it's not as much money as you think you should be paying for a cigar. Now, you know, bundled cigars are a whole different animal. But again, I wouldn't necessarily discount bundled cigars. Like, I've had bundled cigars that are $3 a pop that are really freaking good. If you like them, you like them. And that's cool. But don't look at a cigar and say, oh, this is only $5 or $6. Like, this cannot be good. I've had a lot of really great cigars for $5, $5 to $6 that have blown me away. AJ Fernandez Last Call, really good example. The last time I checked on that, it was like a $5.50 to $6 cigar. And that's one of those cigars that you can literally smoke all the time. Like, it's a great cigar. We just released one under Punch, the Knuckle Buster. It's like, again, a $5.50 to $6 cigar. Incredible. So you can very, very easily find a cigar in that lower price point that's still super good. And I've had $20, $25 cigars that were like, meh. My favorite bottle of wine is $11. So again, it's all super personal, but don't discount something or not want something based on how much it is. Like, don't only seek out a higher price point because you think it'll be better. Again, that's just my advice. Take it how you will. Let's see here. I have a whole list because this is obviously shaping up to be a long video. Let's see. And all right, well, I'm going to talk about one that is more near and dear to my heart, and that's to not only smoke cigars like what you would consider special cigars for special occasions. I used to do this all the time where I would like squirrel stash cigars to make sure that I had the right occasion to smoke them. Like, oh, you know, I have to save this for graduation, or oh, I'm going to save this for when I get married, or oh, when my friend has a kid or whatever. And like, that's great. It's definitely cool to have cigars that you want to dedicate to special occasions, but life's too short, you guys. Enjoy the little things. And if you buy that cigar, that limited edition cigar, that more expensive cigar that, you know, you're using some of your bonus money on or something, smoke it. Smoke it, you guys. Enjoy it, please, because one day you're going to open your humidor and you're going to see more cigars than you know what to do with. And I had to come to terms with that actually not that long ago, probably in the last year. I was going through my like specialty humidor and I was like, I have way too many cigars in here to be just banking them. I'm like, there's not that many special occasions that happen. Like, I smoked some cigars on my wedding day. It was great, right? I have some cigars set aside for, you know, people I know who are having kids or I know who are getting married in the future. You know, it's like, you have more cigars than, in my opinion, special occasions. So it's good to have those, and it's good to have your everyday smokables because, you know, you don't want to have the dry aged Wagyu beef every day because then you're going to burn yourself out and not have the opportunity to truly appreciate the finer things in life. But don't wait so long between your special occasion cigars. Just go out and enjoy them. Also, maybe you guys don't want to hear this, and that's fine, but Cubans are not the holy grail. Cuban cigars are great. Cuban cigars can be great. But there are so many good cigars out there that are not Cuban. You know, Honduran cigars, Nicaraguan, Dominican. We're, you know, sourcing tobacco from all these really cool countries like Brazilian tobacco, you know, African Cameroon, Mexican San Andrean. Like, there are so many different tobaccos out there to really bring these cigars together to make them just incredible. And there's nothing wrong with Cubans. I'm not going to tell you not to enjoy a Cuban cigar, because there are Cubans that are very, very good. But it is my opinion that there are comparable, if not better, cigars out there that are not Cuban. Don't at me. You're allowed to disagree. But, you know, it boils down to just smoke what you like. Smoke what you're comfortable with. I mean, I would say kind of push yourself out of your comfort zone when it comes to branching out, you know, and not kind of falling into a rut of smoking the same thing all of the time, but not pushing yourself to where you're uncomfortable as far as like the strength or, you know, just the general being of what the cigar is, whether it be flavored or traditional or Lancero or, you know, like a 60 ring gauge or something. So just, I want y'all to be happy and to enjoy your smoking experience. So if you take anything away from this, it's just trust your gut, trust the people who work at the cigar lounges, and try to just set yourself up for having a good time. You know, put yourself in a good environment with good people and a cigar that you are absolutely comfortable smoking. And do not wait forever in between occasions to enjoy a really, really good cigar. On that note, I am going to go enjoy the rest of this cigar after I relight it. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. As always, stay safe, stay smoky, and I will talk to you later.